Hello there, my name is Marko Gheorghita, and in this presentation I'm going to cover the following topic: editing, more specifically transitions. Film editing is a process that turns individual scenes and shots into a coherent motion picture. Shots are cut or assembled to combine into the final movie. Cinematography isn't enough to recreate a director's or a writer's vision once you have a series of shots. Therefore, you need to assemble them, making them appear to be one single chronological shot. Editing is a process in which this happens. The footage is being taken and refined into the final film using multiple editing techniques, especially transitions. Throughout the years, since 1890s and onwards, the editing transitions have developed drastically, from a simple cut to graphic matches, for example.
Do you know that girl?
Scott! What?
Now, I'm going to take you back in time a bit and rediscover together how the editing process has been born. It all started with Georges Méliès, who owned and operated the theatre Robert Houdin. In the fall of 1896, Méliès was in Paris shooting a bus coming out of a tunnel, when his camera jammed in the middle of the take. When he got the camera working again, the bus was gone and replaced by a car. When he developed the film, the bus turned into the car right there on the screen, that way creating the jump cut. He then used his technique in one of his films, called The Haunted Castle in 1896, to create appearing and disappearing VFX. Throughout his cinematography experiences, he also introduced editing techniques such as fade in, fade out, overlapping dissolves, and even stop motion photography, all these being present in another film of his called A Trip to the Moon in 1902. The camera was still throughout the whole film, and you can see how greatly he's used these techniques, even though it was really simple to do. Edwin S. Porter was another figure of the world of cinematography and editing, and he decided to try his hand at a narrative film with 1903's The Life of an American Fireman. What Porter did was quite unique. He took stock footage from the large Edison library and spliced them together with staged scenes to create a fictional narrative, that way creating the parallel edit cut, which was better applied in another film of his in 1903, The Great Train Robbery. He cut straight between scenes without using fades or dissolves, therefore not letting the scene to reach its logical end, but at the same time allowing the audience to get more information about what was going on at the same time but in different locations. Later on, David Worth Griffith came into play after a few years, and in between 1908 and 1911 he made over 450 films for Biograph, the company he was working for back then. One of Griffith's inventions was the cut-in, which was first used in The Greaser's Gauntlet in 1908. Griffith cut from a medium-long shot of a hanging tree to a full shot in the middle of the scene to emphasize the emotional impact of an exchange between two actors. By using more than one camera, he then created the continuity editing, which pretty much means the cutting in between the shots, keeping a continuous sense of space and time, which also involved the 180-degree roll, avoiding disrupting the continuity. That's obviously what Griffith realized back then. Griffith showed that his techniques were revolutionary once again in 1909 with The Lonely Villa, intercutting in between three parallel actions: a woman held up in a house, robbers trying to break in, and a husband rushing home to rescue. Later on in 1917, in Russia, one of Moscow's film school's co-founders, Lev Kuleshov, would bring new insights in cinematography. His first experiment would illustrate what has become known as the Kuleshov effect. He took a shot of an expressionless face, and then created three different short clips, and then edited them together: the face with a bowl of soup, a girl in the coffin, and a seductive woman on the couch, showing the actor's face slightly changing, when in reality it was just the fact that changing in between the shots, it would seem like the face was changing when in reality it wasn't. Sergei Eisenstein, one of Kuleshov's students, came up with the theory of montage, an editing style of assembling together different shots. Battleship Potemkin would be Eisenstein's most critically acclaimed and influential film. Shot in 1925, Sergei Eisenstein has used the montage to elicit the emotional response from the viewer. And since then, a lot more techniques have developed, such as action match cuts, graphic matches, invisible cuts, etc. In a bit, we are going to go through some of my examples where I try to implement different edit transitions myself. To begin with, here is a task that we've had to do for Craft, where I've had to use the camera movements for a short piece of action, but we've edited these shots using different transitions. We've done different edits for this one, and here we have an action match as Liam goes downstairs, when he sits down as well. On this other edit, we have myself going downstairs but using a jump cut to see how jarring it would look and how much it would take away from the action. We've used the action matches to create a continuous and well-flowing action without distracting the audience. Next, during an editing task last year, we've been asked to edit a whole scene of a film based on the footage given and a script as well. In this one, I have relied on the 180-degree rule during the conversation bit and the over-the-shoulder shots, in order to not break the continuity. I've used the parallel edit as well to show the audience what the other character does while the others are speaking, providing the audience double the amount of information so they understand the narrative better. And while we're on the topic of jump cuts as well, in my first short film that I've made a few years ago called Liar's Handshake, I've used the jump cut here to move the action faster rather than filming myself going through all the rooms and then upstairs. Moving on, a task I enjoyed doing was the hidden cuts task. I was a cinematographer for this one, and we had to create a short narrative using quick cuts and hidden cuts. For this, we've used the fast pans so we can cut from one shot to another, but also we've had to get the camera close to the stairs in this specific case to create a black frame, and then we've had our character walking away from the lens to change the location in a few seconds, creating a really nice effect. The last bit of transition that I've explored was the match cut or the graphic matches. I've used these in a PvP montage I've edited last year in After Effects from the game Destiny 2. The first one I've used is here, where I was using my super ability, and with the help of the explosion that occurs while activating it and matching the movement of the character, I quickly changed the location. You can see how smoothly it was and how nice it looks. Another instance where I've used the graphic match was here, where my mate was aiming down sight with his sniper rifle, and using the scope's shape, I've cut into another instance on another map where he was again aiming down sights. In a proper film, this specific type of transition would be used for a similar purpose really, as it changes the settings quickly. Transitions wise, I think I've used them quite decently with the right purpose, but of course there are a lot of improvements that I could make next time, and I will take them in consideration, especially while being the cinematographer. What a journey this presentation was. Now it's time to conclude by sharing what I'm planning to do for next semester's portfolio for craft skills. I'd like to stick with the editing throughout the next semester as well, but also to start looking at cinematography in more depth, covering the following topics: shot composition and the use of different lenses. The main reason I've chosen these two topics in particular is because they go hand in hand together very well. i.e., in order to edit something in a certain way, it needs to be planned properly and filmed, so the warning effect can be achieved when editing it. And of course, I will be presenting everything in a clear and engaging way, as most of it will be tested and done by myself using my own skills. That was it from me for today. Until next time, keep being creative and stay cool.